what's going to happen this time that makes it different is just looking at the process of change. If you look at the Atlantean scenario, there was omniscient power, and there was really no other alternative than a kind of death spiral, which happened when certain groups made it possible for that to happen. Here, even though it looks very negative, and if you look at it ecologically, as far as politics on a national, international level, it looks very negative. But what's happening is that major groups on this world are switching. They're changing their realities, and they're allowing for a positive change to happen. And as I look around continually at all of this, see things happening in a lot different way. Also, there's the whole first contact scenario. Unlike last time, we are not alone in any way with how this thing is going to change. We have both a spiritual and you might call it an ET element that is part of this whole endgame process that is about transformation, and not so much a transformation downward but one upward. This time is all about integrating who and what we are and bringing out the fullest possible potential that all we have to develop a whole new reality. And so as I see this, and I see continually every time I hear anything from most people that really get into the true ET messages, it gets to be very positive. There are some people doing the negative stuff, but I kind of downplay all of that because I realize that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So what we really need to understand is that we are not alone once again, only this time the process is positive and upward lifting, moving us toward integrating ourselves. And this is one of the things that you see if you look all around the planet, is that the changes in consciousness are being noticed by people all over the world. And one of the things that I've discovered with my organization is that there are people who are contacting us from every part of the planet. We get people from Asia, Africa, Europe, East and West, and North and South America, Australia, New Zealand, and all the Pacific Islands. So I just look at this particular procedure as being a positive one, and everything is showing me that Spirit, the divine, is moving us toward integrating ourselves as fully conscious beings and creating a civilization for us that allows us to take that fully conscious capabilities and utilize them in the highest potential for the positive good and the unfolding of this particular divine plan that deals with how this reality, this universe, is to play itself out. So I feel that everything is very positive, and all the information that I see continually surrounding me every day simply continually verifies that particular fact.
When you scan the probabilities of how things will play out, can you paint a picture of probabilities for our listeners for what you see likely in terms of how things will unfold in different domains? For example, in the domains of healing and health care, in the domain of politics and government, in the domain of finances, and in any other domains that you feel would be very helpful to paint a broad stroke picture of for our listeners that could give them a little more reality on how this might all play out?
Well, as I see it, right now on this planet, there's a vast explosion going on in the various healing arts. There's a whole alternative to what medicine as we know it is about that is more and more coming forth. That's why there's more and more attempts by various governments and powers that be in the health field to try to suppress it more and more. And because there are more and more people supporting this alternative, it's coming forth. And the big thing that has helped us also is the Internet. So as I look at everything, what I see is a moving forward of people understanding how the human body is integrated, how it's holistic, and what's the best possible ways, other than the more invasive aspects that we talk about in medicine, like surgery, etc., for healing the body, and how we can bring the body in a more integrated state into supporting its highest spiritual states. And that's what I really see happening, is this integrative healing procedure. And then as far as government and politics go, I really see this present system as being on its last legs, because it has become so completely segregated, so to speak, from reality. that more and more as people discover what's happening, they see how it's extremely unrealistic. We've hit a point where government is no longer really receptive to the people all around the planet, and the result is that there is a vast quiet revolution happening on this planet about change. And this is moving forward day by day as more and more people openly express what's happening and express their dislike of what is happening, and it is changing things. It's limiting what they can do, what they can't do, and it also allows for this great shift that I've been explaining in all my workshops, which is that there is a vast change happening right now, and this change is to bring in a governments that, in case of the United States, are return of a constitutional government and the ending of the present political party systems and the bringing forth of a system that's really more democratic and is truly about the whole concepts of what I like to call it personal sovereignty and freedom. And this is what is happening. Little by little, all the attempts that have been made to bring us into a almost Nazi-like dictatorship has failed. And the reason why they failed is because this energy for freedom is growing, and it's limiting, because of people power, it's limiting what this government can do and can't do. And another thing that I see that has been proven to me to exist and should be around shortly is the abundance programs, which change immediately the whole economic way the world goes. So as far as I see a planet preparing very shortly to shift itself in how its politics and its economic systems are. And secondly, is because of this, I see the final process in my mind of this, which is what I like to call the first contact scenario. And this is something that all my contacts from all the various ET realms have been extremely positive about and telling me that it's not that far off, and that the whole process is that we are going to be no longer formally and physically alone. And once that happens, it changes the whole operation of how things operate on planet Earth, because once you truly start bringing in the galactic aspect, it changes immediately people to the planetary and then themselves into the galactic aspect. And so as I see it, where we're headed is a whole new reality, and this reality is one in which we are fully conscious, in which we live in a fully conscious society, in which we have created what I like to call true democracy, which is ruled by the people and for the people, and that we do it in an economy that's entirely different than the one that limits us right now. That's an abundant economy, and it's based upon extremely high technologies, advanced technologies that will be given to us and that have been also, to a large extent, suppressed by the powers that be on this planet for decades, actually for centuries.
That was going to be my next question. Do you think the conditions will exist where we can safely reveal to humanity the physics of tapping zero-point energy and the development of practical applications for that? I've been very impressed recently by my exposure to the work of Nassim Haramein, who has seemed to have tapped the geometry of the space-time manifold, and it seems that the scientific community within a short period of time is going to be confronted with a unified model of creation that is going to be difficult for them to deny.
Exactly, and there's also all kinds of machines and similarly styled concepts of creation that have been put forth for the last 150 years or more by different scientists. You know, when Maxwell did his initial equations, he was talking not just about how it's been applied here, the so-called, what we call the limited aspects, as I like to call it, of how physical things happen. In other words, how do you propagate electricity to create radio waves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he also talked about the interdimensional aspects, which in the science of his day, the mid-19th to late 19th century, was looked upon as impossible. And so they took all the stuff that Maxwell created on those aspects and got rid of them. The same thing with Tesla. Tesla created a similar system based on Maxwell's equations and came up with his wireless power system, which is the basis of just about everything. And, of course, Faraday came up with the homopolar generator, which is one of the basic concepts of all magnet generators and how they operate. So we have had a long tradition. And what has happened now is those people who are coming together right now to create this new science on this planet, which will later, of course, be tied in to the spiritual signs of the stars are coming